Hi guys, it's Kelly here and I'm back with another video. This video is featuring the On the Road Fancy Die from Hero Art, and we are going to be building a scene with it. I'm also going to be using the Winding Road Heroscapes. This is the bundle that comes with the matching die, and we are going to build ourselves a little trifold card here. So I have a piece that is 4 1/4 by 6 and a piece that is 5 1/4 by 5. I'm just going to do some scoring. Basically, what I'm doing is I'm building out my pieces for my trifold, but I need to create this like hinge or flap that will be glued to the back of my card, so all of the parts will open. Just make sure that because here's this first one, I had to fix it. I had to do it a second time because this is my 5 1/2 by 5. And it should have been scored on the 5 side, and I didn't. I scored it on the other side. So I did have to redo it. But then this way, this just gives you this little like door where you can adhere it and everything will open up really nicely. You can make them really honestly as big as you would like, as long as the folded portion equals 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, which is also the third piece that I have. And the reason that is because that is an A2 size card. So if you want it to fit into an A2 size envelope, all of your parts have to fold up to equal that. And I'm going to show you that here. So this will be the one that opens horizontally, and then the top piece will open vertically. So you'll be able to flip it up and then flip it out and everything once I glue it. I know it's hard to visualize without actually seeing it, but we're going to get into the creating here in just one second. So the part that will open vertically, which is the 4 1/4 by 6 inch piece, I'm going to go ahead and cut my die cut out of. This is a cute little die. It gives me like date night vibes, you know what I'm saying? And so I guess that's what I was going for. I think that it would be super fun to create like a bunch of different scenes through the window. It's really perfect for that. And of course, you know, Hero Arts has a bunch of different like Heroscapes that you could stamp that they could possibly be looking at. But I decided I was going to create a night scene. I thought that would be fun and interesting. This particular die is really nice because it cuts out all the detail, so I don't really need to add anything to it, just some color. In order to make sure, this is a good trick for any sort of intricate dies that you're going to be ink blending on, in order to make sure that I don't rip or bend any of the intricate pieces, I am going to put some masking tape behind it. So I'm using, it's 2-inch Post-it note tape, and I'm just going to put that right behind there so that it holds those intricate cut pieces in place. And then I'm also going to use another piece to mask the flap door that we'll be gluing, so that way the backside of my card will all be nice, neat, and white. That part isn't necessary. If it doesn't bother you, you don't need to do that. I'm going to use a lot of blue. You saw the thumbnail, people. You know how blue this card is. It's so blue. And I even put some purples in there, and it's still blue. It's just how it worked out. Blue's my boyfriend. I'm okay with it. I'm going to embrace it. So I am going to speed this up because it is a lot of ink blending. But I used Distress ink for this. I used Salty Ocean, Blueprint Sketch, Chip Sapphire, and a little bit of black soot. You can use whatever you would like. Purple would also work really well for this, for like a night scene. Some like darker teals or greens, if you're, you know, interested in that, would work really well. You could even add like a yellow glow to that from the moon. But I decided I was going to stick with the blues. I knew I was going to put the moon in between them. And so when I was adding my color, I was leaving the lighter edge around the bottom of the rear view mirror and around their faces and the top of the dashboard. So that way it's going to give me this really nice glow. For my ink blending, I like to do lightest to darkest and then darkest back to lightest. Putting on 2 layers of color, I really feel like I get a good blend and a good saturation of color, but you can add as much color or as little as you would like. I just knew that I needed it to be dark around the edges to really get that like glow effect that I was going for. And again, like, it's entirely up to you how much color you want to add. I liked to keep it pretty dark on the edges for this backlighting technique, because if it's not dark, if you don't have any shadows around the edges, then the glow doesn't work. You know what I'm saying? The lighter colors don't look like they're glowing. And we're not even all the way back through to the lightest color. And you can see that even without the scene set behind it, we're starting to get that kind of vibe where, you know, it's glowing around their faces, around the top of that dash, which is pretty cool. It's a pretty cool look, which really doesn't require a whole lot of effort, honestly. We're just, you know, ink blending and being particular about how the order that we're applying it and what we're leaving light and dark. So now I am going to use, this is actually the main kit for August for my monthly hero. I used the stencil for the sun to trace out a circle, and then I'm just going to trim that out. Your circle infinity dies would do the same thing. You would just be able to trace those out and then trim it out. Or if you have masking paper that has a backer to it, you could also just die cut it. So here, I'm just getting an idea. I've laid my stamp set down. I'm getting an idea of where I need my moon to be for it to be seen. Obviously, it's my light source. I need it to be seen. And where the stamping will lay for the scene in the background. So here, I'm just laid this down. We're working on the base of the card now. This is the A2, the full A2 size. So it's 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. And I'm just tracing out my die so that I can see when I put this mask down where exactly my moon is going to be. And I chose to put it right, it's just south of the rear view mirror, because I still wanted it to be seen, but I needed it to be in the middle for the glow to be equal. Here, I'm just going to be honest with you. I did it top to bottom, and then as I was going back through my second time, I was like, I should have done it glowing out. I should have done it in a circular pattern. And if I had to do it again, I would do it in a circular pattern, but I think it worked out okay. I ended up catching it early enough that I think it still has a little circle of light. But here's those purples I was telling you. I did add them. Proof. Video proof that I added purple, and it still was so blue. It was still so blue. I was trying to create a difference between the background and the foreground, and it just wasn't enough. So here's where I figure out, okay, I should probably be doing it in more of a circle. And so I'm starting to bring the darker colors around the sides and leaving the area around the moon a little bit lighter. Like I said, at the end of the day, I ended up doing so much to the background. I don't even know necessarily that that's super noticeable. But if I had to do it again, that is something I would change. So if you're making this card, that may be something you want to keep in mind. So here, I'm just double checking that the moon is in a good spot. And then I'm going to do a bunch of stuff to the background, like I usually do. So first things first, I'm going in and I am sprinkling just some clean water. And the reason that I'm doing that is because I'm looking for layers of stars. So I'm doing the clean water. If you have Hero Arts reactive inks, that will also work with this. And then I went in with some Perfect Pearls. Again, the Hero Arts white shimmer spray would also work for this, and it's just going to add some shimmer. And the last thing I'm going to do is I am going to flick on some white, watered down white acrylic paint. Now you saw I used a little circular acrylic block there to block off my moon. And that's because if that's my light source, the stars would be dimmer closer to that light source. So I want them to be brighter around the edges. You could just use an extra die cut, anything that's a circular shape to block it off. Once that's done, I did go in with a little bit of gray and kind of add a little shading to the moon, and then I'm going to further that by using my Copic markers. Super simple. I literally did dots, guys. That's all I did. On the left and the right hand side, I did some dots of a C1. I went back in and did a couple dots of a C3, and then I went back over it with the C1 just to give it some detail so it wasn't like this blank white space. So here, I'm going to line everything up. This is the scene I've got going on, which would be pretty on its own. But I wanted to use this winding road, and this is a layering stamp set. So I'm not going to be stamping it on these backgrounds, but I do need the background for placement. So I have my scored piece already underneath it. I'm going to use the inked piece to get my placement, and then I'm going to remove it to stamp on my background. I stamped the tree portion in field greens, and it's going to seem like it's really light, but that's all right because we got a plan for that. It's going to be okay, a-okay. So I'm going to stamp that down in the green. I did end up stamping it twice because I wanted it to be a little bit darker. And then I added the detail layer with black. And that's going to look funny. But by the time we get done adding all of our inking, it will fit right in. The road was stamped in wet cement, and then the double yellow lines were stamped with butter bar. So this is probably like a regular length video for me, but this card was so involved, so I'm trying to find a balance. Just bear with me. I'm trying to find a balance between including story time and telling you all about the card, because this card was more involved and it's obviously interactive. There's 3 different parts going on here. We might not have as much story time, so don't worry, there'll be more videos and more story time. So the last time that we had talked, I told you guys that obviously Caitlin was sick. And here we are. That was last Thursday. And here we are on this Friday. And I got to tell you, this baby is still sick. Talking to her pediatrician, we took her to the doctor. They gave us some fantastic, amazing. I wish that I had this medicine when I was a kid. But not me. No. I was a 80s, 90s kid. And you just had to ride it out. You just had to ride out the stomach bug. And so they gave us some anti-nausea medicine that worked so amazing. Like when she is on the medicine, she is not throwing up at all. And so if you have young children, I would recommend asking for it. One thing to note here, while I'm stamping, you can see that I stamped up a little higher than the road comes down. I'm just going to fill that in with my Copics so that I have a base, because ultimately I'm going to be ink blending right over that with black, and it's not even something you're really going to see. But in order to make sure that the colors, because they're not solid colors. When you're ink blending over top of something, it is transparent. So just to make sure that the colors are even, I'm just going to fill it in quickly with the Copics, not anything that's, super fancy or special, just trying to make sure I've got some gray and yellow down there before I start the ink blending over it. And this ink blending is going to be the same thing with the same colors. Using the blues to go right over top of it, leaving the center lighter so that everything matches and it doesn't look like this outside scene is a bright sunshiny day and my car scene is night and my background is night. So I got to make it a little bit darker so that everything looks like night, right? Otherwise the scene would not be good, and this is a scene card. So she's still sick. The pediatrician told us when we took her to the doctor, and then she was still sick and we ended up calling back, that it can take up to a week to a week and a half. Can you even imagine? A week to a week and a half for her to completely kick this tummy bug. So over the weekend, she was fine on the medicine. And then Monday, Nathan came home. He spent the weekend at his dad's house, and he came home and walks in the door with a plastic bag in his hand. And Eric's like, "What's the bag for, buddy?" And he's like, "Oh, in case I threw up in the truck." So he's got it. He's sick all day. He hasn't eaten anything. He's throwing up, going to the bathroom, throwing up, going to the bathroom. And so, oh wait, here, back to the card. So here, when I ran this through my die cutting machine, I did not run the entire thing through. Okay, I left, because you can see how far down that die comes, I left a portion of it hanging off of the plate so that there was no pressure put on it. And then I just trimmed it out with my scissors so that I could keep the door intact to attach it to my card. So I did put a little piece down there to be able to write a message. My sentiment is going to be heat embossed. Please, 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 no matter what ink you're using to blend, but especially if you're using a distress ink or a reactive ink, make sure you heat set it before you put any embossing powder on it, because it will grab it, it will hold it, your sentiment will not turn out. It will stick everywhere. So please make sure you heat set it and then test it before you do any stamping of your sentiment. And then I'm just going to use white embossing powder. And there's two sentiments on this. There's one that says enjoy the journey on the second portion, and then there's one that says happy birthday. And then you can see that from the outside of the card. So, anyway, so he's sick. And so I made the decision, basically if it was safe for my baby, this anti-nausea med, then it was safe for my 9-year-old. And I gave him the same dosage as she did. And he, within a half an hour, was so much better. Like just so much better. Not sick at all. And then he was able to kick it within like 24 hours. I wish that was the same for my little wee one. I really do, because you just feel so terrible for her. At least the medicine stops her from being sick, from actually throwing up, but I'm sure she does not feel 100%. I'm sure that it's still not feeling great. And she's extra tired and extra whiny and all those extra things that babies are when they don't feel good. So in the meantime, between all of this, obviously we still have Molly, who's down and out with her ACL. So how we ended up fixing that problem was I ended up borrowing a crate from my sister. She has 2 German Shepherds, and her husband works from home, so they don't really crate them anymore. So I borrowed a crate from her, which I then put in my bedroom. So now she sleeps in the bedroom with us. She can see everybody. She's much happier being crated that way. And then that's been working for us. So it just seems like it's just one thing right after the other, and both Eric and I are exhausted. Our children are also exhausted. Just so sick of everybody being sick, basically, is where we're at. So yeah, the other night I was laying in bed, and I was like, dear Lord, I know that you are trying to get my attention, but I am not picking up what you are putting down. So I'm going to need you to point it out to me, because I do not understand. I want to understand, Lord, but I do not. Tell me what I am supposed to learn. Let me learn it quick. I want to learn it quick, and then let this be over. Thank you. Here, what I've done is I added some white highlights along the tree line, as well as some shimmer, just clear shimmer. And then I'm going to do the same thing with the die, the people in the die. I'm going to add white highlights where I want it to, where the glow should be the brightest. So along the sides of their profiles, the top of the dash, and the bottom of the rear view mirror. So now, in order to build it, you see I've already put down the inside piece that I just put glue. You only want to put glue along the flap that was going to fold over. Full disclosure, I did have a little bit of trouble getting the top portion folded down because the die was so close to the top. It did take me a little bit of wiggling to get it to lay how it was supposed to lay, but you just want to put the glue on the flaps and then put it together, and then that is the whole card. So I hope that you learned a little something. I hope that you were inspired by something here. And then if you would like more details, you can always head over to the Hero Arts blog to check out the card. Thank you guys so much for joining me, and I will catch you on the next video. Bye.